Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Midday Market Monitor. In today's show, we have a lot of fun news. Market's bleeding a little bit. I'm keeping a smile on my face, okay? I'm glad to be back. It's Tuesday. I missed you guys. It wasn't an actual holiday here in Canada, but I think it was Martin Luther King Day yesterday. So the markets were closed, and now we're back. And I'm so freaking happy to be back. I'll take a red day if it means I can go live and look at stock prices with you. Obviously, prefer it to be green, but beggars can't be choosers. And I know that very well, staring at NVIDIA stock. Every day I go live saying how much I like this company. Hasn't made a freaking dent in the stock price. So I know this very well. Under $180, says the market. That's what they're calling for on NVIDIA. It's doomsday. No doom, please. You're right, Rusty. Okay. Parsifal says he just bought NVIDIA too. Will keep buying every dip below 180 while it lasts. My man. Yeah. I am also a huge fan of Meta here. I'm a big fan of Amazon, SoFi. Look at SoFi today, too. I think they actually might be green today. No, ever so slightly red. Kind of been all over the map today. They actually just announced a new partnership. We got a new partnership with GoTo. Now, GoTo has essentially a user-friendly platform that connects 25,000 dentist offices with over 45,000 verified dental professionals. And they've essentially filled about 125,000 shifts across 30 states. Now, they're helping those potential 45,000 verified dental professionals with SoFi at work. Okay. So it looks better for them that they have tools for those customers, but this also looks great for SoFi. Whenever we look at SoFi at work, this is a tool that will essentially highlight a lot of the products that SoFi offers to the, prospective customers, which now are 45,000 dentists. This is the exact sort of Henry customer that we're looking for. High earners, not rich yet, that have potential student loan debts at the highest degree, but also have really high earnings that they can pay back that loan. They potentially also have high FICO scores and high earnings. So their federal loans versus what SoFi can offer you is a near guaranteed rate improvement. So we're going to get a lot of customers from this. And that's the exact customer that you're looking for, right? There's essentially like the three big professions. You're looking for accountants, lawyers, and doctors, really. But dentists being a subcategory of the last one. But yeah, so this is perfect. We love to see this. And then hopefully those customers, whenever they come into the SoFi at Work portal, end up seeing that there's checking accounts to be offered, invest accounts. How can we take your, major dentist earnings and turn that into long-term wealth? You get yourself your own dental office. Potentially, you're not just going to need one home loan. You might need two. Dentists make a lot of money. So very exciting to see. New applied for USA charter. Yes. No, not Grab's competitor. This is GOTU. Not a rideshare company. But still exciting. And actually probably the exact type of partnership that you want to see from SoFi. So some people said that I was blowing this out of the water. I just said this is exactly the partnership that you want to see. Not everything needs to be, you're working with OpenAI. OpenAI is not the only company that other companies need to work with. Sometimes you just need to connect to a marketplace that has the exact prime customer that you're looking for and say, hey, we have an offer for those customers. We're not going to pay you anything, but you have a customer and you want to offer them a solution. That's a win-win. Okay. Are you familiar with Pagaya, Tanner? Yes. BMNR, look out below. Yes. So while there's good partnerships happening, BMNR is proving that not everything goes the way that you plan. Okay. Down 8.5%. The only thing doing worse than this in my watch list, this is not my portfolio. SBET's not my portfolio, but 9.6%. Bitmine down 8.5%. Now, I know a lot of people talk crap. Both of these are Ethereum treasuries, but one is down a little bit more than SBET. And now, I don't know if anyone wants me to say this. Maybe this is Mr. Beast. Maybe Mr. Beast is holding us up ever so slightly. Okay. Did you end up buying eToro? No, I did not end up buying eToro just yet. I'm going to continue to do a little bit more work. That was only a first impressions video. So there's more for me to listen to. Like, I was talking about this earlier on my last live stream earlier today, and I said, like, if you're going through all the earnings results and fireside chats, that's only one perspective. That's the bullish perspective. You know, Yoni, the CEO, is not going to say, well, our pricing and our UI is not as good as these competitors, and they actually benefit more with lower latency, so customers are getting, you know, better pricing, and like, there's none of that. So I also need to look at, you know, some potential other risks. So that's sort of what I'm going through right now. One of the new videos that I think you're going to see from the channel soon is a comparison between the eToros and the Weebles and the IBKRs and the Robinhoods of the world as sort of a comparison. So yeah. Let us know when you buy eToro so I can buy it. No, Jack. Now, see, this is exactly why I don't do that. Do your own due diligence. Because then if it turns sour, who are you going to blame? Yourself? No, you bought it because I bought it. Don't buy because I'm going to buy. And I'm not saying I'm going to buy. I'm just saying, you know, it looks insanely cheap. Like, I can't get over how cheap it is. Meta is lifeless. No, I like Meta a lot. I like Meta a lot. And here's the thing, is that whenever a company stays down like this and continues to fall and potentially falls below 5 or 600, you know, stuff like this, that's only more enticing for somebody that's looking to buy. You know, look at the fundamentals and then see a company selling off. You know what that should remind you of is going into a store, you're wanting to buy your favorite item, and now it's on a bigger sale. Okay, that's the important part. I'll show you a report that just recently, SimilarWeb, which you guys know I like SimilarWeb a lot, showed that Meta Threads is now ahead of X on daily mobile active users, but still way behind on website traffic. But on iOS and Android is now above X. Come on now. And you know why? I have this same feeling. I scroll through Instagram sometimes. I watch the shorts and everything. It's insanely addictive. I don't know what it is. I've tried YouTube shorts. I've tried, you know, TikTok or Instagram or well, a bunch of them. They all suck. Instagram is phenomenal. It just curates the exact videos that I want to see. And I like, there'll be some times where I'll wake up just hard belly laughing because the algorithm just knows me perfectly. They've got me. They've collected me as a user. They're serving me ads. I'm part of the problem. Now, with that being said, sometimes I'll be scrolling through Instagram and there'll pop up like a report or something like this, like a tweet that isn't quite finished. And I can read it and I'm like, ooh, this has to do with me. They're talking about Amazon data centers or something like this, but then it says ... And then, you know, you click through and it says, well, you got to download Threads. And I'm like, oh, come on. But that gets people. And so that cross-sell across 3.5 billion people is what's allowing them to just start new products that are straight ripoffs of X. Like, I'm not even saying it's not. But they have 141 million people going on a monthly basis to that platform. That's real money. There's ads there. Meta's amazing. Yeah, Nebius, Missouri expansion approval this afternoon. Potential approval. Okay, that's the hope. But yes. Zuck got Tanner? Yeah, he did. I'm not like the people who are talking crap on the Mag 7s, like you guys are being for real brainwashed. Like that the only way to invest is to find the companies that are not profitable yet, that have not demonstrated product market fit, that do not have fortress balance sheets, that do not have unbelievable proven founders, and that you need to find the next big thing constantly. Like, give your head a shake, man. There's money to be made in the Mag 7s. They make ungodly amounts of money. The reason why we're buying companies at a premium, which every company, for the most part, unless you're looking at eToro, is at a premium. Even eToro is at a premium of their earnings, right? We're buying multiples of how much potential cash flow generation that those companies have, or the potential to buy back their stock or return capital back to shareholders. All of that is the potential long-term end game. Okay. Yeah, it's so funny. ZZZZ. I get it. But it's not even that you're buying a safe haven. These are not blue chip banks. Okay. These are the fastest moving technology companies in the world. Like, it's incredible. So I'm a growth investor. I'm a technology investor through and through. But you're finding that at the biggest companies. And right now, what separates the, big AI names are the companies with enough capital to control whether or not they have to go to a supplier in order to get their compute, or they own their own compute. These companies are vertically integrating with their own, like this is a heavy dollar game. the compute AI game is. So either you're going to pay Nebius and you're going to pay AWS and Google and Azure for your compute, and you pay a premium for that, a hefty margin. Look it up. Or you own those companies. They supply the compute to themselves, and then you guys are secondary to those upgrades. That's the business I want to be in. You guys are funny. Let's see. Guys, you need to buy BMNR. You need to trust me. I am someone on YouTube chat that literally means I know everything. Yeah, BMNR is not something I'm adding right now. Okay. Mag 7 is well established with strong balance sheets. Eh? How about Amazon? Love Amazon. I think that they might have one of the biggest moats in the Mag 7. Like, their logistics, I just don't even understand how anyone's going to be able to compete with them going forward. How do you find $100 billion in your back pocket and in multiple decades to set up warehouses all through the United States and worldwide? AI is not going to shorten the distance of the Earth. Okay? We're not speeding up how long it takes from planes to get from, China to New York City. Like, things still take time. They have all that logistics already set up. There's no innovating that away. This is real physical products. Yeah. I'm shocked Amazon still partners with UPS and USPS because there's that much demand. But over time, they are doing more of that in-house. Until teleportation is a thing, Amazon wins. Gonna be a while. Okay. What does the Mr. Beast and BMNR news mean for BMNR? Do we know? So I wrote about this, right? They were talking about doing an app, like, and this caught a lot of attention. I was just like, man, what is this freaking app? This looks like trash. Okay. He skipped through this. This wasn't on screen for 2 seconds. And he's talking about how, or like it shows in this app, like stay informed, news highlights, some sort of portfolio, and being able to add holdings to that portfolio as well as like news and media. It for real felt like something that I think a stock analyst, which is what Tom Lee is, would want to increase their shareholder value. You know what we need? An app. We need AI. No. Okay. And then someone said, I guess you're the guy who just wants them to stake ETH, which is what Tom Lee said, like, hey, we're going to be doing a lot more than that. Like, please don't be that guy. And I just said, like, no, I'm like, offer expertise and capital, like be the Berkshire Hathaway of Ethereum, be a fund, charge fees for your knowledge, do consulting, and invest in the winners. Do that. And if that's part of Mr. Beast's strategy, like you just see a massive play and it is going to 10x, and I can see that as well. Like Mr. Beast is, I'm aware it's not the same demographic. You need to go watch his stuff to realize and realize this is a 27-year-old kid who has hundreds of employees, has done this from his own funding, poor family, not in LA. It's like, I forget where he is, but he's just in the middle of nowhere. Like, he for real is an exception. Okay. Exceptional person. So, but don't say, oh, like we're investing in that so then he can market Ethereum to children. It doesn't make any sense. Just be a fund and do fund things. You're 28, Tanner. I know, and I don't have hundreds of employees. That's what I'm saying. Like, look at me. I'm a failure. He's got hundreds of employees, studios working on Netflix things and Amazon Prime, multi-$100 million stuff. He's 27 years old. That's an exceptional person. If I were to be an angel investor, I would look for the people, who has proven that they're not looking to. Mr. Beast, for example, wasn't even at the Tom Lee event. And everyone was like, how disrespectful. It's like, no, the dude is so focused on his work that he's not looking to do appearances. He never does these appearances. The only time that you're ever going to see him is if it's on another YouTube channel or another thing where it could potentially grow his audience. He's fully business focused. That's a person that I would invest in. What if something happens to him? Yeah. Don't invest, my friend. You're better to put your money in like certified deposits or something like this. If like, hey, I mean, plane crashes happen. Yeah, things happen. It would be, don't put all your eggs in one basket. What happens to Tom Lee? What happens to BMNR with Tom Lee, Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway, any company and their founder? What happens? It would suck. No, I did not buy eToro yet. Okay. Clowning BMNR is so in right now. Yeah, because he, like, for real, Tom Lee deserves it. Like, I don't think anyone deserves to be like kicked when they're down, but like, don't call for December all-time highs and then January all-time highs. And then like, because for real, what I would have thought would have been a smarter thing is, hey, these are speculative assets. We don't know when this is going to pump because no one does. And clearly Tom Lee does not. But if you're going to be a prophet, you can never be wrong. Right? And so whenever he is proven wrong, then he loses prophet or oracle status. He can no longer guess the prices of those things. Even if he's directionally right, even if he's thematically right, no one believes his timelines anymore. So he loses that Tom Lee premium, and now it's just a ETH holding company. So it's at 1 times MNAV to the total amount of Ethereum that they're holding, and that's that. And whenever he was guessing the prices correctly and everything was going well, then he had a 30% premium on his Ethereum on the books. I didn't say it was a scam, by the way. And you seem to be a little bit too interested with your logo being the Bitmine logo. But I'm not saying he's a scam. I actually do not think he's a scam artist. I just think, hey, don't be dumb. Don't say things that you can't guarantee, and then whenever it goes wrong, that's going to hurt your company's value. I don't think he's stealing people's money. I think he's just been wrong. Are you a McDonald's person over Timmy's? Always. Tim Hortons needs to go out of business sooner rather than later, so then we can fill that real estate with new businesses that are actually making tasty goods and foods. Have I had In-N-Out? I think so. Okay, wait. Which one's In-N-Out? Because I think I've had In-N-Out. I've not had Whataburger. I think that's the order. I've had In-N-Out. It was honestly whatever. I think I needed to remind myself. So where did I have it? I had it in Vegas. Does that sound correct? I had it in Las Vegas with Davis, Amit, and Roy. Yeah, we did things animal style. Yeah. I'm also not a super big fast food guy. You must discuss Hood. What's going on with Hood? Hood to 106, down 2%. I think that's more just trading fears and market fears rather than anything going wrong with Robinhood. You know? But there's nothing really that they've done recently. I think that there was here. Where was it? Robinhood's now offering free tax filing and estate planning with people that have over $1 million in assets under custody with them. Full service tax filing. Get matched with a tax professional who can do all the work for you on your 2025 tax returns. Legacy planning. Give your family peace of mind. Create a will and trust with expert help and personalized guidance. Work with a dedicated relationship manager to make the most out of our services. This is the new offerings of Robinhood Concierge. Cool. Like I like. So I'm like I said, I was doing a brokerage comparison video, working on that, and starting to look into IBKR and Webull and eToro and Robinhood to see which ones are, potentially the best. I can't get over how much of a miss IBKR was in my portfolio. Like, this company is something else. Like, unreal. Like, look at this. I can't get over this. Here. This is IBKR. Let's look at this on a quarterly basis. Total revenue. Let me just reverse that revenue. Okay. So in September of 2025, most recently, we brought in $1.6 billion of revenue, growing at roughly 21%, in that sort of range. Healthy growth over time. But then we have net income. Look at this net income to revenue. Look at this. So if we go to, let's go to margins really quick, and then net profit margin. We just did 71.66% net income margin on IBKR. Why is no one talking about this? This is ridiculous. It's expensive, just like Hood is expensive as well. I won't tell you guys all my findings. You got to watch my video. It'll probably come out this week, comparing all of them. But I was looking at this company, the assets under management, the amount of transactions, the revenue, just everything across the board. I'm like, man, did I miss this? I should have seen this. That's in my field. Wow. Yeah. Okay. ETH will hit 7K end of month January, said Tim Lee. Let's not be disrespectful, okay? He's still Tom. It's not Scam Lee or whatever. I had IBKR before Hood, somewhat of a complex platform to use. Yeah, but they also have a lot of, they have a huge amount of offerings in many locations. Can you give us some insight into what's next for talk about Nebius? Just more data centers. Like some businesses don't need a ton of coverage all the time, right? Whenever earnings come up, what we need to see is that, what do you call it? Capacity is fully booked out, some sort of large deal. They can be a little bit catalyst driven with large partnerships, but they don't even need large partnerships. It just gives a lot of forward runway for investors to say, okay, well, at least now we have a customer that's going to be booking out at least this much. So then we can add that to, our estimates. Sorry, I have some sort of hair on my hand that was bothering me. You know what's funny is my girlfriend wanted me to unclog the drain or whatever to our shower. And then she was complaining that it was clogged. I'm like, this is 100% you. Do you think my head of hair is clogging the drain? Females are a plumbing nightmare. It's insane. Everything just has these long, and my girlfriend has very long hair. I don't know, down to her belly button or something, really long. It's very pretty. But boy, oh boy, I have to, yeah, she should have done it. I did use a drain snake, but still. Yeah, plumbing's... yeah. Nice. Yeah, I know. I was doing her dirty for a second. I was like, well, she's the love of my life. She's very pretty. But yeah. My girlfriend has her own drain snaking. Got you. Okay, let's continue. No, I just found it was my girlfriend's hair was on my hand. And I'm like, where did that even come from? Okay, that my dog, my girlfriend and my dog creates the most hair around this house. The two beautiful ladies in my house, by the way. Let's see what else. So we ended up covering Meta. Gemini API calls have more than doubled to 85 billion by August, and Gemini Enterprise has grown to about 8 million subscribers. Very excited about that. I like Mag 7. I don't even feel like I have to be like I have to, find many other names. Okay, what is this? Let's go ahead and listen to Andy Jassy as he says there's an unprecedented amount of AI compute being consumed right now. Let's have a listen.
And asked him about the immense demands of artificial intelligence, like computing power and grid power, and how tech giants like Amazon are planning to meet all those demands.
It is so unprecedented how much compute is being consumed right now. You just have to only look at how much, how much power is needed, how many data centers are being built. There is the AI labs are consuming gobs and gobs of compute right now. And so those AI labs believe they have opportunities if they train models very expansively to keep changing the intelligence of these models. So they need a lot of compute, but they need money for the compute. Mm-hmm. And so they're trying to find ways to fund that compute. And I'd say a lot of the companies who provide that compute want to serve those customers and then have opportunities to also invest in those companies as those companies are looking to find ways to fund what they're doing. And I think those companies are impressive companies. So I think when you look at a company like Anthropic, a company like OpenAI, I mean, these are unusual companies who've been building amazing models for 10 plus years and are reshaping the way people use applications. And so I just think it's a function of the time where tons of compute are being asked for. They need ways to fund it. Companies have opportunities to invest in companies. Those companies are impressive companies, and you're just seeing some of that. But I don't know if that'll continue or not.
Do you think it ends well?
I think it could end well. I mean, I'm saying anytime you make substantial investments, if you look at the history of M&A and investments, mm-hmm. not all of them are successful, and the hit rate is pretty variable. So I think whether the investments end well or not, we'll have to see. But I do think the companies that we're talking about just in the last few minutes are impressive companies.
Well, OpenAI, for instance, I think they've signed deals to build out $1.4 trillion in infrastructure just in the last several months. That's pretty ambitious. You think it's realistic based on the demand you see?
Well, it is ambitious. I agree with you, and I would say that they are ambitious, and I think they're ambitious and they're forward thinking, and I know that they believe they need quite a bit of compute to train the models the way they believe changes what's possible. And I don't know the details of all those deals. Sometimes when I get a chance to look at them, I have a harder time making sense of them all, and I just don't know which ones are guaranteed to spend those amounts and which are options to spend those amounts. But I know that the companies believe they need that much compute.
Yeah. Let's talk about data centers, because that's something that you guys are also on the forefront. You just signed a deal with Rio Tinto to lock up more of the copper that they're taking out of the ground. It's not just copper, it's electricity, it's all of these things that there's a huge rising demand. Do we have the ability to meet that demand? And what else are you doing to kind of make sure you're getting it?
Well, we have not had the power has been short. Yeah. In the U.S., around the world, there is a power shortage. I think that it is better than it was 18 months ago, and still not as plentiful as we all need. I mean, I think everyone would tell you, while it's better than 18 months ago, we still could be fulfilling more demand if we had more capacity. And so we have tried every which way we can to work with different communities and different municipalities and different technology providers to enable more power. And we've done unique things on the nuclear side. We've invested in some SMR capabilities. We have been the largest corporate purchaser of renewable energy for the last 5 years. Wherever we have an initiative with water where we give back more water than we take in all the communities in which we operate. And so we're doing everything we possibly can to help try to enable more power, and and we want to do it. We don't expect other people to pay for us. We expect to fund the power that we need, and we create a lot of good jobs in the communities in which we're building a lot of data centers, and we intend to continue to do so.
When you say you don't expect other people to pay for it, that's been an issue that President Trump has kind of been talking about writ large. He is kind of pushing back on a lot of companies to make sure that that consumers aren't paying more for this. What do you guys do on that level?
Well, we spend so much money on power, Becky. We're spending a lot of money in infrastructure. We have always paid our own way. We've always expected to pay our own way.
Spend a lot of money on infrastructure. That sure is true. It's keeping the stock down with the amount of CapEx that they are spending, but it keeps up that forward growth. That's what they want to do. They want to stay ahead of the curve. This guy's a real snoozer. I saw a bunch of comments talking crap on Andy Jassy. I actually like Andy Jassy. He's growing a lot on me. He talks just like Bezos. He's just, he's a little bit quieter, but the growth is kept up. And Jassy, I think, is a mix between Bezos and a little bit. I really don't think Bezos cared at all about margins, and maybe the company would never be profitable if it was up to him. Andy Jassy, I think, is a mix of that continued growth while bringing in margins. And as the company approaches $1 trillion in revenue, it might be okay to start to, turn on those margin pipelines, and that could skyrocket the stock over time if the valuation in the stock continues to compress as earnings climb up. Okay. Playing the long game with Amazon will pay off. That's my bet. I like it a lot. Did the 10% cap on credit cards happen today? It's funny, eh? That was supposed to be for today. That came and went. Not a single word spoken. I would still continue to pay off your credit cards, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing's going to change. Okay. Yo, Tanner, my friend, what's up? Also, I'm going to a MIT's meetup in New York. So if any of you guys are going, I think there's 350 people or something like that going. Should be fun. I actually think it's in New Jersey, but still. I'll be buying the meta dip, yeah. Tanner, are you ready to become the 52nd state? Okay. Yeah. Are you guys going to be paying me $100,000? I don't like some of the things that are happening here. I am a capitalist, I don't even think it's a political thing. I don't think I'm picking a side. I just believe in that, it has its flaws, but every system has its flaws. And I think this one has the least amount of flaws. And I also think Canada has made the wrong turns at a couple times. And I wouldn't mind, having a better dollar and more competition. I think that those are actually anti-big corporation. I think that's actually more positive consumer. $100K is not enough? Why? You're losing 40% on your dollar right now. Honestly, I'm closer to free. It's just I'll take $100,000 if whenever you are negotiating with somebody and you have a price in your head, but then they speak first and they are way above your price, and you're like, I don't know if I could do it, but okay, I'll be nice. And inside you're smirking from ear to ear. That's like what it bro wants the empire to take over. Carnegie just said that China was, part of the New World Order. Which side is the empire? So you think Canada is worth less than $100K? I just don't even know what is Canada? I've been asking a lot of people this, and I'm not trying to be like anti-pride, but like to me, to be Canadian is to be extremely, polite, nice. Like we're good people to know. We're trustworthy people. We are hardworking. I know a lot of people boil it down to poutine and maple syrup, but those are items. Gay, yeah, that could be one of the adjectives. I was thinking less gay and more polite. But whenever I see Americans, they feel a lot like Canadians. I mean, sometimes I go to places and I'm like, in New York, I'll like hold the door open for someone and they'll just walk through and I'm like, this never like, there's certain places in America where I'm like, okay, these people are like extremely reserved. Like say hi, But for the most part, they feel like Canadians. I don't know. I just don't like whenever I see Canadians and Americans like fighting. It's like, guys, we're the exact same. Like there is a fake border separating us and a few Great Lakes. Like these people are identical to us. And then whenever I see like, I don't know, Canada and China, which is like the governing party of China is the Chinese Communist Party. And they're like, oh, this is a better relationship for us to make. I'm like, huh? Like, I just don't think the politics are the same. Canada is communist. Well, not the way that I live in it. I don't get any money for free. I pay a lot in taxes. And I try to earn a good wage. But like for real, all the money that I make is in American dollars because I'm making 40% more. It's a hack. Like in every other country that's not American knows that the biggest hack that you can make is to sell to Americans and to charge in US dollars. Like, so I participate. And then whenever I see things like the least earning state in America now makes more than the most or the highest earning state or province in Canada, I'm like, how is this possible? Like there's a border separating us, but yet we're making so much less. And then people go, oh, no, don't let those American companies into our country because that would affect jobs. Like, well, get an American job. I have an American job. I work for Google. And if you want a high paying job, then you need to offer high pay. Like Shopify offers, great pay and like a lot of Americans work for Shopify because they're a great tech company. And then so I had a conversation with someone and they were talking about like how their phone provider is like messing with them or whatever. And then he realized that it's between Rogers or Bell and that the provider that he actually was with was just a subsidiary of Bell. I'm like, yeah, that's why. What do you do for Google? I meant like, I don't know if you guys know this, but YouTube is owned by Google. I don't work for anyone, but they do pay my ad checks. That's for sure. But yeah. Wow, that Google comment caught you guys off guard, eh? No, I don't work for Google. They'd never hire me. For real, guys, I'm an idiot, okay? I'm just on here, just spewing my thoughts, trying to get a couple things right. But, yeah, jobless. We're jobless. Okay. It's funnier that a group of investors didn't get it. I mean, I thought it was an appropriate audience. Yeah. Guys, let him pretend he has a job. Please, I'm doing real things here. I got an employee now. I've got an employee. Okay. Okay. I was talking about something though. I don't remember. Oh, like I think competition is good. You know, if there was a single company that decided how much I paid for TVs and milk and subscriptions to all of these things, like, I mean, that would not be great. But the fact that I end up having to fight between, you know, does YouTube want to supply my music, or does Apple want to supply my music, or Shopify? And so they all have to be very cautious with raising prices, even though their expenses are raising. They might not be able to raise prices on me so quickly because if their competitors aren't, then I might switch. I like competition. That's the best part about capitalism, is it's better for users if they fight amongst themselves for my dollar. So I just have a hard time, you know, seeing the direction that Canada goes sometimes. I'm like, come on, like, can we be a strong nation here with less than 40 million people making less than California alone? I stopped Donkey Kong Country to type. Late to chat. Yeah, no, if you guys are holding AMD, congratulations. That's freaking awesome. A lot of countries make less than California. Yeah. Okay, let's check on the markets again. But yeah, QQQ is down 1.8%. SPY down 1.8%. It's brutal. It's brutal. It's one of those days. But that's okay. There was also an interview really quickly because, guys, honestly, I'm not buying into the fear, uncertainty, and doubt. If you guys have been to, like, for example, if you guys have watched every stream, like for the last years and years that we've been covering this, there are days like this constantly where people get so worried, and then all the streams turn into what could potentially go wrong. And then, you know, we end up getting a good macro report, and then things are better than expected, even during the worst times, Liberation Day, COVID, the sun will shine again. So my investments are focused on the sun shining. Artificial intelligence, I think, will be one of the greatest investments of all time, already has been for me. But there's a conversation here with CoreWeave CEO that I want to talk about. The title is AI will continue to pay dividends for the next 100 years. Bold statement. CoreWeave's definitely an important name in the space. Let's have a listen to this. But just to reiterate, I am a little bit of a permabull. Until I see otherwise, until I see that I have to, I'm not a permabull thematically, but I like to bet long on ideas. I think technology is inherently deflationary. I think technology evens the playing field amongst, you know, people. If we look at, like, no one talks about this. It's so important that we understand that, like, the billionaires and the average person, people that are making minimum wage, have the exact same smartphone. They're using the same AI models. They're like, the technology is puts us all on the exact same playing field. I love that effect. I want to bet more on that. We use the same computers, we use the same models. The more things that are on cloud-based solutions, the easier it is for consumers to have those same services. Trump's talking. Okay, we can listen to this. Well, they're talking about Minnesota. We'll taste test it and then see if we do not want to listen, because I do care more about stocks right now.
These are people that are they're apprehended and either put in jails in their country from where they came, or the countries respect us, and so they actually put them there. In the old days, they didn't respect our country. Biden wouldn't do this because he let them all in. If you didn't have open border policies of Biden, none of this, all of the time that we spend talking about Minnesota and everything else, most of them are coming from out of the country. And it's been caused by a previous administrator. Look at this, one after one. Boy, these are rough characters. These are all criminal, illegal aliens that, in many cases, they're murderers, they're drug lords, drug dealers. They're the mentally insane. There's some of them who are brutal killers. They're mentally insane. They're killers, but they're insane. These are just in Minnesota. California, it's worse. In other states, it's worse. Now, Minnesota, the crime is incredible. The financial crimes are incredible. And the problem is because of the agitators and insurrectionists, whatever you want, troublemakers, but they're paid agitators and insurrectionists. Nobody talks about the fact that $19 billion at a minimum is missing in Minnesota, given to a large degree by Somalians. They've taken it. Somalians, can you imagine? And they don't do it. A lot of very low IQ people, they don't do it. Other people work it out, and they get them money, and they go out and buy Mercedes Benzes, and they come from here. They have no money. They never had money. They never had a life. They never had a government. They never had a country, because there's basically no country. Somalia is not even a country. They don't have anything that resembles a country. And if it is a country, it's considered just about the worst in the world. They come here and they become rich, and they don't have a job. I was told that Ilhan Omar is worth $30 million. She never had a job. She's a crooked congressman. So here's another one. And I have, oh, by the way, we just took out, these are all what ICE is doing. And it's a dangerous job. These are rough people. Weapons. This one here is very bad. I'm going through this because I think we have plenty of time. I'm going to beautiful place in Switzerland, where we'll be, I'm sure I'm very happily awaited for. In Switzerland, they don't know about this. They don't have this problem. They have other problems, but they don't have this problem. Look, killed somebody. Look, and these are rough people. These are not, this was all allowed into our country through open borders. The dumbest policies, men and women's sports is dumb. But to me, having an open border for the world to come in, drug dealers and prisoners, Venezuela, as an example, opened their prisons into the United States. That's why one of the reasons I felt so strongly against Venezuela. Now I'm loving Venezuela. They've been working with us so well. It's been so nice. And an unbelievably nice woman also did a very incredible thing, as you know, a few days ago. We're talking to her, and maybe we can get her involved in some way. I'd love to be able to do that. Maria, maybe we can do that. But we're dealing with the people and the president and all of the people in Venezuela, and we've been doing great. The oil companies are getting ready to make massive investments there. They have more oil than even Saudi Arabia. There you go. These are real. These are rough. This is all Minnesota, every one of them. This is one state out of many. And these people are, let's see, yeah, these are all so far people that came from outside of the country. They were allowed in by Sleepy Joe Biden, Crooked Joe Biden, whichever you like. You can call him whatever you like. They're both right. He's sleepy and he's crooked. He was the worst president we've ever had. And we've had some bad ones too. I can tell you, all you have to do is look at trade. You're not getting bored with this, right? I hope you don't. But these are people that you have to see. Strong arm rape, aggravated assault with a weapon, and many other crimes. Gang member, known as one of the toughest people around.
What are we watching? What are we doing right now?
These are tough people. So this is what the people are trying to protect, because all ICE wants to do is get them out of our country, bring them to prisons and jails and mental institutions from where they came. That's all they want to do. They're patriots, and they have to be abused by guys like Don Lemon, who's a loser, lightweight. I saw him the way he walked in that church. It was terrible. I have such respect for that pastor. He was so calm. He was so nice. He was just accosted. What they did in that church was horrible yesterday. Look at it here. 24 convictions. 24 times convicted. They're not charges. These are convictions. So he comes from outside the country. Do you think he's going to be good here? He convicted 24 times. He's going to be good here, right? It doesn't work that way. It's a man murder. It's one of many. One of many. All they want to do is get him out. They want to take him out of our country. And we're met with paid agitators and insurrectionists, troublemakers. They're paid. You know, when the woman was shot, I felt terribly about that. And I understand both sides of it. But when she was shot, there was another woman that was screaming shame, 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 right? You saw it so loud, like a professional opera singer. She was so loud and so professional. She wasn't a woman that was hurt, like, oh, my heart's injured. She was a professional. She's shame, shame. She's screaming shame, shame. I said, that's not a normal person. That's a professional. These are professional agitators and professional people that want to see our country do badly. But that's not happening because we have the hottest country anywhere in the world, despite this stuff. Look at this.
Okay. I honestly think that David Friedberg of the All In podcast had one of the greatest views about this. I think that whenever you turn it to, you know, Somalia is not a country. This is, you know, these are bad people, stuff like this. I think those are terrible messages to send. And in fact, I actually think that if I could share what David Friedberg has to say, it aligns very strongly with my views on this, which I think is perfect. But let's have a listen really quick.
Given out. And by the way, this is not a race thing. It does no one any good to cast this as being a Somali thing. And that, I think, is what's getting everyone in trouble.
No,
the fact, and by the way, it's what shuts off a lot of people to actually being able to look at the fraud. And it's not about the Somali people. It's about the fact that fraud is allowed by the government. And it's about the fact that the government either is implicit or complicit in this fraud. And I think that that's what people need to pay attention to and ignore all of the rattlings about what community or what group or who's doing it and just focus on the fact that the government lets this shit happen. If you think about the state of California spending $350 billion a year and you ask yourself the question, Are those government agencies and the agents in those agencies doing their job of making sure that there's no fraud taking place? There is no way anyone's going to raise their hand and say, yes, they're great fiduciaries of taxpayer money. And that's what we should all be paying attention to. And get out of the political divide on all this and the racism and all the bullshit and focus on the fact that the government does this shit. All right, everyone.
I think that sums it up very well. I think pointing the fingers at a specific group is, you know, of course there are going to be extremely bad actors. But I think that we need to look internally, and that the fact that we're not auditing this or anything along these lines is like, we're to blame. You know? Okay. Yeah, I want my money back. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Now, let's go back to, he's still just flicking through some images. And I get the message, but like, I don't actually care to know the individual faces of these people. I'm here to look for stocks. I know that obviously there's more to life than just that, but the reason why people are listening to me is not just to hear my perspective on the world, but hopefully be a master of one than a jack of all trades, if that makes sense. So back to CoreWeave. If the messaging does change, then I'm more than happy to check that out. But let's go ahead and have a look at what CoreWeave had to say about artificial intelligence. And is this still a good investment to make?
CoreWeave soaring more than 150% since the company went public last March. The company focuses on powering AI workloads, making it a direct play on rising infrastructure demand. Joining us now first on CNBC, Mike Intrater, CoreWeave CEO. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
It's good. We'll start with what they call a blunt five-word take on the AI debate, and that is violent change and violent demand. And it's not circular. It's the world we're in right now, and you're dispelling any critique. We've never done this before.
That was concise. That was exactly dead on.
Can you put some meat on the bone?
Yeah. Look, what you're seeing in CoreWeave's commercial activity, what you're seeing across the data center space, what you're seeing across silicon providers, and what you're seeing across all of the application layer for artificial intelligence is a sustained demand from enterprise clients, from cloud clients, from retail clients that are trying to access infrastructure at a size and scale that does not exist. And the market is working diligently to produce enough infrastructure for it to effectively allow artificial intelligence to achieve its potential.
I think these companies that are your clients are well-heeled, huge market cap companies. I think that makes it different. The numbers are staggering that we hear. They're numbers that the money doesn't exist. That's why people are worried that they're circular deals. But it's possible it does exist at some point, I guess.
So look, we serve the entire AI ecosystem, and that's everything from Microsoft and Meta. It's everything from NVIDIA through AI labs, through a couple of computer science students coming out of the program with an idea of what business is going to look like in the future. And all of those different entities access the infrastructure that they require to be able to run their business through our software, through our physical infrastructure.
So when 5 years from now, the build out is probably never be complete, but let's say it's like once we had the railroads crisscrossing the entire country, so it's there. Do you see the payoff? Do you see the payoff that suddenly that the money that was spent is coming back in 2 or 3 times the return on investment?
So I think in 5 or 10 years, you're going to be in a world where artificial intelligence is embedded into absolutely everything we do. And it will continue to pay dividends for the next 100 years. And what you're seeing is the base load infrastructure being built right now at what has historically been a pace that wasn't even considered. And companies like CoreWeave, and there are others, are out there building the infrastructure to be able to deliver that for these clients.
Can I say, I see 3 risks in this whole thing. And I was actually with one of the leading CEOs of an AI company earlier this morning. One being that some of these companies just run out of capital along the way. Not necessarily Google or Meta, but one of the independents, for whatever reason, competitively, it doesn't work for them in the same way some of the bigger guys effectively take share, and then it becomes harder for them. That's one issue. 2 is that there's actually a technological breakthrough, a la DeepSeek, but on steroids, where all of a sudden we actually don't need the same amount of compute that we thought we did. And 3, that the depreciation schedule for some of these chips is actually a lot shorter than we think. Not to say that they can't be used in some way, but that for this all to work, you just actually need the new ones. And you're not building the railroads because you have to basically update the railroads every 2 years. What do you make of those 3 risks?
All right, so let's go through them one at a time, right? So the first risk is that some of the companies that are buying this infrastructure will run out of cash. And I think it stands to reason that in every new wave of business, there are companies that are built that do not make it. And we fully expect that there will be companies that shut down, there will be companies that go bankrupt, there will be companies that will be bought by other companies. And that is the natural course of how a new industry comes into existence. And so from the CoreWeave position, the requirement for us is to manage our risk from the portfolio of different clients that we sell to. And so, yes, we sell to some startups. Yes, we sell to some clouds. Yes, we sell to some enterprises. And by being able to sell across the entire space, you're able to manage the risk of any one or any multiple bankruptcies. Right. We fully expect that to happen. And I think anyone who's looking at the space understands that some of these companies won't make it. There will be pets.com. However,
but it won't take down the overall.
It won't take down the overall market. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that will happen is you're seeing companies that will be the defining companies of the next 50 years of technology. And so that's the first bucket, is that will happen, and it needs to be managed, and everyone should expect it. The second one is technological dislocation. And what I would say is that people who work in this space, the fact that DeepSeek occurred didn't shock anyone. There will be step functions in efficiency. There will be step functions in technology. Anyone working in this business fully expects that to occur on a regular basis. And you know, I think the market reacted, and the market most certainly did react to the fact that it came out of China. That was more shocking than the fact that there was a technology step function. I think we can say with a high degree of confidence, you will see a number of those over the next 5 years. We hope you do.
But nothing that shakes the business to its core as a function of that.
So nothing that's going to shake the business to its core, because we have built the business on long-term contracts with creditworthy counterparties. So when a new technology comes out, when a new way of using compute comes out, what will happen is when the clients of ours come in to renew or to buy new technology, they will buy different technology. We've seen it already, wave after wave of clients. They don't renew on existing technology necessarily as much as they come in and buy the new cutting edge, the new best GPU. They went from NVIDIA's H100s to the H200s to the GB200s, and we continue to see that, and we expect to continue to see that. And I forget what your third
depreciation, but
depreciation. Look, I don't care what some short in the market says about depreciation. The way I think about depreciation is, what are my clients willing to pay for today? If they are willing to buy a contract that goes out for 5 years or 6 years, they are telling us that the compute has value to them over 5 or 6 years. that is defining the obsolescence curve. That is defining the depreciation curve. And they know new technology is going to come out. They're perfectly aware that there will be a new, better generation, and they're just simply working through the process of, we use this technology to train our bleeding edge models, and then when there's new technology, we'll use that technology to do, and we'll take the existing technology that we bought 2 years ago and repurpose it to other functions where we need compute. We have seen repeated repurchase of A100s, of H100s again and again from new clients with new use cases.
Damn, doesn't that get you excited, eh? I love to hear that. Find more use cases for the A100s and the H100s. Beautiful. Supposedly he's talking about markets and tariffs. Let's have a listen.
You're allowed to do a license, and then they have a clause at the end, something to the effect, or what is necessary, something to that effect. And what is necessary with tariffs? I don't know where there's a case.
I'll try to find a louder one.
We've taken in hundreds of billions of dollars, and if we lose that case, it's possible we're going to have to do the best we can in paying it back. I don't know how that's going to be done very easily without hurting a lot of people. But we're waiting for that case anxiously, and we have tremendous national security because.
Okay, found a louder one here. Okay, switching now.
10, 12, 13 times more than other countries. 13 times more, not 13%, 13 times more. A pill that was selling in London for $10 would sell in New York for $130. It's 13 times. More than that even. But we secured most favored nations agreements to slash drug prices by as much as 300, 400, 500, and even 600%, including with Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Eli Lilly, Nova Nordisk, Gilead Sciences, EMD, Serenio, and many others. If you look at some of the prices that are coming down, where a price would come down $1,300 coming down to $87. Think of it. So something that was costing $1,300 is now costing $87. And the fake news doesn't want to write about it. That's why I do this. I don't like to do this, to be honest with you. But I do it because got to get the word out. We signed one big, beautiful bill. I call it the Great Big Beautiful Bill, delivering the largest tax cuts in history. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. We made interest on car loans tax deductible for U.S. built automobiles only. So if you buy an automobile built in the United States, we're not doing it for Germany and Canada and different places. We're doing it only if it's built here. We want them to be built here. A lot of the Canadian auto plants are closing and they're moving into the United States. Same thing with Mexico, same thing with Germany, and same thing with Japan and other countries. They're moving into the United States because of tariffs, because they don't want to pay the tariffs. It's too much. They can't pay the tariffs. So they're coming here. Nothing different than what other smart countries did, but it works better for us. Under my leadership, it's not done properly, but it's done properly. We have, again, more plants being built than at any time in the history of our country. Passed the largest spending cuts in American history, and that was true in my first. We had a tremendous first term also. We rebuilt our military. We had one of the best. We had the best economy in the history of our country, but we're blowing it away now. When this stuff starts opening up, you're not going to see anything like it probably ever again. We slashed the federal budget deficit by 27% in a single year. Think of that, 27. You could do it 2%, 1%, 0.5%, 27%. And that's with all of the things we have to do, all of the people we have to put on the payroll to get rid of people that are murderers. Again, when you see people in Minnesota that are murderers, these people are fighting to keep them there. And I say to Christie and to Tom Homan, the great people, they're working so hard. Look at the border. The border is now secure. First time, Biden said you couldn't do it. You need legislation. I had no legislation. I said, close the border. Within 1 month, we had almost nobody coming in. Now, for the last 8 months, nobody came into our country illegally. And I find that hard to believe, because you'd think somebody, because it used to be millions of people just poured into our country. And the people that do that are Democrat sort of aligned. So, I mean, they're not doing me any favors. We had nobody come in. We have a very strong border. We have very few people coming up. They're not going to make the trek because they know they probably won't be coming in. So it's not as hard as you think. But I didn't have to go back. Remember, they said, we need legislation to close the border. They had millions of people coming in a month. We have nobody coming in, and we're getting the murderers out. Murderers, people from prisons and jails. Many countries opened up their prisons and dropped them into the United States. Those are the people we're getting out. And we have a lot of heart. And I said, you got to lighten up on this. We have a lot of heart for people. They came in illegally, but they're good people, and they're working now on farms, and they're working in luncheonettes and hotels and all. And we're looking to get the criminals out right now, the criminals. And I think it's very important. I mean, every once in a while you see a story, we take somebody. He should be out because they came in illegally. So in theory, they should be. But we're focused on the murderers, the drug dealers, the mentally insane. We have a lot of mentally insane killers. I mean, you can't even talk to them. It'd be nice if you could have a little reason, but you can't even reason. These are seriously ill people. You have a couple of countries where they were loaded up. Their mental institutions and insane asylums were loaded to the gills. They're empty now. But they're filling up because we're bringing them all back. We know where they came from. And every country accepts them. You know, under Biden, they wouldn't take, they had so little respect that they'd bring them there and they wouldn't take them. They said, get the hell out of here. They would be bringing a plane in to land in a country, and they'd put 5 planes on the runway so you couldn't land the plane. So they'd come back with the people that they were bringing back. They don't do that with me. They do that with me. They have problems. They don't do it. They accept them back. They're not happy about it, but they accept them back. Cut a record number of regulations. I promised to eliminate 10 old regulations for every one new regulation. Instead, we cut 129 old regulations for each one added. Think of that. I wanted to do 10. In my first 4 years, I did. When we put on a new regulation, you had to cut 8. This year, I said you have to cut 10. Instead, we cut 129. So every time, so far, can't remain like that, I don't imagine. I hope I can, because we have so much wasted regulation, stupid regulations. Regulations where they go by California, which is a disaster state, with a governor that truly is doing a bad job. He's killing that state. If he ever ran the country, this country would be Venezuela very quickly. Using tariffs slashed the U.S. trade deficit by an incredible 77%. The trade deficit is down, and that doesn't include the last month where we had our best month. We slashed the trade deficit by an incredible 77% in 1 year with no inflation, something that everyone said could not be done. So we had essentially no inflation. In fact, the last month we had almost no inflation. But we slashed the trade deficit by 77%. If you slash it by 1%, that was good. Again, we did that with tariffs and intelligence. We did that with November 5th, great election. We secured historic trade deals to reduce barriers on U.S. exports with countries covering 40% of all U.S. trade. Think of that. American exports are up by more than $150 billion this year. People said, oh, we're not exporting. All we do is buy. If you keep buying, you're not going to have a country for very long. So we increased exports by more than $150 billion. Investment in American factories is up 41%. That's a record. Nobody goes 41% up. You go 2% up, 1% up. You go down by 3%. If Kamala got elected, the 41% up would be 41% down. We removed over 270,000 bureaucrats from the federal payroll. That's another thing. So we have, we announce our unemployment numbers, call it unemployment or employment. And they were very good, but we could make them great. but we've slashed tremendous numbers of people off the federal payroll. Because ultimately, if you're on the federal payroll, I mean, we have jobs where they had 10 people for every job. So we cut. Now, if you want to see some good numbers, I'll hire 1 million people. We cut millions of people off the federal payroll. I don't like doing that, but the good news, I don't feel badly because they're getting private sector jobs and they're getting sometimes twice as much money, 3 times as much money. They're getting factory jobs. They're getting much better jobs and much higher pay. But all I have to do is say, like, what the Democrats do all the time. They hire 1 million people and then they hire another million. They load it up and it says, oh, they only have a 3% unemployment rate. It's a fake rate. So with us, we're proud of the fact that we cut so many because, again, I don't want to cut people. But when you cut them and they go out and get a better job, I like to cut them. And sometimes they have to be forced to do that because, it's like they want to stay where they are. They don't know. And then all of a sudden they end up, we have many cases, Caroline, where people were devastated. They hated Trump. I got caught from my very boring federal job where they had, again, sometimes 10 people to do one job. And they were very upset. And now they ended up with a job where they get paid 3 times more money. They're ending up buying houses. It's like crazy. So they went from not liking me to liking me a lot because it's hard to get. We need people. It's one of the reasons. I mean, when you have good people on the farm or good people in hotels and everything else, we want to work with them as much as we can. Under Biden, 1 out of 4 jobs added was a government job. Think of that. So 25% of the jobs added. That's when you know that's 25% of jobs aren't real jobs. But again, I could do that. I could add 2 million jobs right now, would have an unemployed. I could say, just hire some more people. I do the opposite. I say, get rid of everybody that's unnecessary because that's the way you make America great again. When you have, all these jobs where people are sitting around doing nothing and they get a lot of money by the government, it's no good. But that's what the Democrats do. They show, oh, we were at 4% unemployment. That's a good number. But they just add jobs or they would never cut jobs. Under Trump, 100% of all new jobs created have been in the private sector. Think of that. Not 1% has gone to federal. So under Biden, 1 out of 4 was a government job. Under Trump, 100% of the new jobs created, 100% came from the private sector. That's how you make your country wealthy and strong and good. We inherited the worst border in history and turned it into the strongest border in history. Illegal crossings have plummeted to the lowest level ever recorded, down 99.999%. That means down 100%. 99.99. Now, I want to find out who that one person is. For 8 months in a row, 0, and these are government numbers. These are not my numbers. For 8 months in a row, 0 illegal aliens were admitted to our country. 0. Nobody came in unless they came in legally. We have a big process for having people come in legally, by the way. A lot of people are coming in legally. They have to prove they love our country. They have to prove that they're not going to need welfare. A lot of things they have to prove. For the first time in 50 years, we are now seeing reverse migration, where because we're getting all of these illegal people out. People that came in illegally, many cases, they're criminals in many, many cases. Remember when they used to say that the people that come into our country as immigrants are very nice people. They're wonderful people. They don't commit crime. No, they make our criminals look like babies. They make our Hell's Angels look like the sweetest people on earth. The Hell's Angels are now considered a nice, high-quality person. I like the Hell's Angels. They voted for me. They protected me, actually, believe it or not. But they make our criminals look like babies. These are some of the most vicious people anywhere in the world. They came from the Congo. The prisons, I know the Congo because I ended the war with the Congo and Rwanda. Tough group, very tough group. They came from prisons in the Congo. Some of the toughest, meanest people you'll ever meet. Thank you very much. They allowed him to come into America. These are tough people. Before my election, American-born citizens, that's a big thing. In other words, we're now taking care of our people. 100% of net jobs created have gone to the American-born people. Before that, we didn't care. Designated Tren de Aragua, MS-13, and the Mexican drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, and we've hit them hard. You've seen what we've done on the water. We're starting to do that on land. The land is much easier, actually. Water is incredible. We did that on the water so that when you do it on the land, they don't go to the water. Nobody's going into the boat business right now, I can tell you. 97% down drugs coming in by water. 97%. Nobody ever heard of that before. They heard 2%, 1%. It went up 2%. 97, and we're looking for the 3%. Who the hell are the 3%? They're crazy. But we've taken out almost 100% of the drugs coming in by water. Now we're going to be very shortly starting drugs coming in by land. We know exactly where they're coming from. Remove tens of thousands of illegal alien gang members, drug dealers, murderers, child predators, human traffickers, fraudsters, savage criminals, and others. We removed them from our country. They're out. They're gone. In some cases, they're so dangerous that we put them in jail because we don't want to give them to their country. Their country doesn't do anything, and they end up coming back. We have some that they're so bad that we don't want to really release them. We want to put them in a jail where we know they're properly ensconced. Think of that. Remove tens of thousands of illegal alien gang members.
Okay. I'm watching the market bleed today. Amazon down 3.8%. The SPY is down 2% now. QQQ, wrong QQQ, my bad. QQQ also down 2%. These are bloody markets. Bloody. Gosh. This is just crazy. I don't know why the chart is broken, but yeah. The thing working the best today is the VIX. That's not what you want to see. The volatility index essentially saying people are getting a little worried. So hopefully this stops spiking, nearly at 11% now. Down the most today, SharpLink Gaming, Novix, Nebius below $100. Oh man. I wonder, does this get back to the 80s and $70 right before we're about to go into earnings season? Tonight, if I'm not mistaken, we have Netflix earnings. So this will really kick off the big tech companies, IBKR as well. This is going to be another one. Maybe I should listen to that as well, because if you guys were listening to the beginning of the stream, IBKR is a stunning business model. I actually can't get over how freaking well this company is doing. They do like net income margins of over 70+%. It's phenomenal. So they're printing cash. But Netflix, I think, maybe we'll even go live to listen to that call. That could be interesting. And then here, let's just bring this up really quick. Then, we have Charles Schwab on Wednesday. That might be interesting. Intel, Capital One, those might be interesting in terms of the comments about the 10% caps. Probably is an absolute nothing burger anyways. But then next week, we have Texas Instruments and Seagate, UNH, Tesla, Microsoft, Meta, ServiceNow. Nice ServiceNow and OpenAI partnership today. Lending Club, IBM, Lam Research, Apple, Visa, Western Digital, SanDisk. These are all going to be very exciting names for next week. MasterCard, ASML. Like, just phenomenal businesses across the board. Oh my God, their UI freaking sucks, man. Every time I'm just like hovering over something. Oh, I can't stand that. Stop popping up. IBKR is a steal. It might be. I started looking at it because people said that I didn't do enough comparisons whenever looking at eToro. Whenever I was looking at eToro, I just want it to be a first impressions video. So there will be more coverage on this name, especially if it can get cheaper. I actually think today it's up, is it not? No, it's now down 1.3%. It was up earlier, but that has quickly changed. Let's go ahead and take a look at the markets. eToro actually fell below $30 right at the beginning of the day. That's the cheapest the company has ever been. I don't know. How low can you go? See, the worrisome part about buying brokerages is that unlike Nebius or an NVIDIA or a Palantir or any of these names that you might be concerned about, their businesses will be completely fine regardless of the reflections of what's happening in the stock market. So a Palantir could be down 1%, but they could have just signed a huge deal today. In the offices of Palantir, they're still working very hard to fundamentally deliver on revenue, net income, free cash flow, hopefully try to lower expenses and bring their customers, more value. On the other hand, if the markets are saying, hey, you know what, this is not the market that we want to be in, let's we don't want to touch this as much. We want to step away from investing. We're not, this is not a day trader's environment. Well, if that's the case, then the eToros and the IBKRs and the Robinhoods will also fundamentally get punished because there's just not as much activity. Okay. So you got to be careful with these names. Not only are they sinking along with the market, but they are fundamentally potentially seeing less revenue. Just bought Amazon. Dude, Amazon's getting its butt kicked. Yeah. Why can I not? Dude, I'm being dyslexic. Jeez, I know their ticker symbol. Yeah, look at this, man. About to be down 4% Amazon. Hoo-wee. We are watching the market bleed out in front of our eyes. Sometimes I don't fully pronounce the words. I said calm before the storm last live stream. And then you guys were like, what before the storm? What before the storm? I'm sorry, okay? It came out a little weird, but it's calm before the storm. The calm. But no one pronounces the L, okay? It's just calm. Okay. Let's go ahead and continue looking through here. I'm done with that conversation. But yeah. When will PayPal bottom? Dude, I'm pretty sure it hit new lows today, right? Like new 52-week lows. Look at that. Last time we were even below this price target in general was in October of 2023. And that's just on the share price. That's not market cap. Market cap would look very different than this. Robinhood down to 105, down 3%. Qualcomm down 3%. Zscaler down 3%. Reddit also taking a beating. Apple down 3%. What are we doing here, ladies and gentlemen? Apple's down 3%. Wow. Who's buying? We got deals. Anybody, any auctions on Tesla here? NVIDIA down 3.8%, 179.20. It's not even $190 anymore. It's not $180. You can get this back in the 170s again. Up for grabs. Who wants it? Lots of volume. This will be fixed in 2 weeks. I mean, yeah, for the most part. I think there might be some general greater fears that are brewing up. You see this potentially in silver prices or gold or something like this that looks to be fine and growing in these types of markets. The interesting part as well is that Bitcoin is also still being treated like it's a tech company, or Ethereum. These are not trading alongside commodities. These are trading alongside tech stocks, down another 6%. You know, tomorrow, more blood, further to go, I think. Yeah, I mean, that's what and everyone always says, way past the bottom, too. So who is to know? Trump said that the U.S. won't have a trade deficit next year. OpenAI believes they're going to get to 1 billion free users in 2026, potentially bringing in billions and billions of dollars of revenue if they end up bringing over ads, even if they're not as efficient as Meta. Let's see what else. NVIDIA reportedly invested $150 million in AI inference startup Base 10, valuing it around $5 billion. I actually have the report here from the Wall Street Journal. Base 10, a startup specializing in AI inference, just raised $300 million at a $5 billion valuation, according to people familiar with the matter, more than doubling its valuation. Google was an investor, NVIDIA. The deal highlights NVIDIA's increasingly aggressive push into startups focused on inference, the process of AI models generating output in response to prompts. As the industry shifts its focus from training models to powering them at scale, it is also the latest example of NVIDIA's investing in a customer of its AI chips. I mean, that's going to be every single one. You're not going to pour billions of dollars into a company not buying your own chips. But yeah. Okay. CoreWeave down 7.5%. That's who we were listening to earlier. CoreWeave and their CEO getting an absolute butt kicking. IREN down. Dude, Wealthfront is for real, like headed to zero here. They went public in December 12th. December 12th at $14. You can now pick this company up for $8. Like, that's incredible, dude. At one point, someone paid shares of this company for $14.88. You just got obliterated in a month. Obliterated. At what point does a company just step in to start aggressively purchasing those shares? Wow, keep an eye on that name. That is a bloodbath. However, they did recently have earnings, and I don't think people were happy. So, you know, maybe they are literally getting re-rated here. Okay. Circle's down 7. Coinbase down 5.8%. Here, wait, one sec. There we go. SMR down 5.4%. Open Door down 6. Oklo down 6. Upstart down 6.3. Where is SoFi today? Down 2.3. Even they have gone from red up to green, back down to red. Okay. It's a stinky market. Sometimes you look down at your shoes and you realize you stepped in a market that looked and felt a lot like dog I shouldn't say those words. I need to be I gotta have better jokes that require no swear words. Also, I need better jokes. Okay. Yeah. Brutal. SPY still down 2%. Did we bottom for the day? Let's hope and pray that we did. Down 2 is a bloody day. That is no fun. Okay, let's see what else is in the news. Ray Dalio on capital war fears the monetary order is breaking down. Okay, do we want to add a little FUD to this FUD market? Maybe Dalio's onto something. I know people are changing their views on Ray Dalio, but let's not forget he is still one of the GOATs. Let's have a listen.
Off this hour with Bridgewater's founder, Ray Dalio, author of multiple books, the latest of which is How Countries Go Broke. We've been having this conversation here at Davos now for many, many years. It's great to have you here. I want to actually just launch into the same conversation we were having basically during a commercial break, which is you've been talking for a long time about a breakdown in the world, a breakdown in societies. Joe had asked you, are we there yet? And you said, yeah, we're here. It's happening.
Let's step back from the sensational and be clear about what I mean. The monetary order is breaking down. Okay. What I mean by the monetary order is that fiat currencies and debt as a storehold of wealth is not being held by central banks in the same way, and that there was a change. The biggest market to move last year was the gold market, far better than the tech markets, right, and so on. And the U.S. markets underperformed foreign markets because of the fact you could see it in the numbers of the central banks and so on. So let's just look at the fact that on the other side of trade deficits and trade wars, there are capital and capital wars. And so as we're looking at that, and you reported what the stock market and so on, but you didn't report that the gold market is also up 3.
We did say that earlier this morning.
Okay.
It's up to
But
record
I'm
levels
saying,
again, and silver.
Is you look at what is happening and why it's happening and who's buying it. So let's just take a moment on that capital war issue, okay? We know that both the holders of US dollar denominated debt, which is money, and those who need it, the United States, are worried about each other, right? Mm-hmm. So if you have other countries who are holding it and they're worried about each other, and we're producing a lot of it, that's a big issue, right? So you have to explain what is going on with fiat currencies, generally speaking. And now if you take the conflicts, you can't ignore the possibility that capital wars, in other words, maybe there's not the same inclination to buy U.S. debt and so on. We at least need to talk about those possibilities and find out who is buying and selling what that is behind these market movements.
And who do you think is behind it?
Well, it's known. It's very clear. You're seeing both the central banks. I can take you down to the specific central banks and what they're doing. Okay, they are because they're. What is money? What was
we're
money?
Increasingly buying our own money. That's the lesson of all this.
And the other countries, central banks, and sovereign wealth funds and others are buying gold, right, are buying these assets as a diversifier. Think of it, gold is not a metal to speculate on. It's the second largest reserve currency. It has been the reserve currency. Okay, so there's a money, and we're talking about, it's common conversation about what is money. Is it Bitcoin? Is it digital? How does it work, right? So we need to talk about the value of money.
But are there forces at play where this is just predestined to happen, given sort of the way you look at cycles? Or do you say there are things that the administration's doing or that others are doing that are creating this moment, whether it be tariffs? We just had Sergio Armati from UBS on. He said, you can do a lot of things, but at some point there is a tipping point. You can't do too many, and maybe we're there.
There are circumstances that have happened repeatedly that are analogous in history that you can look to. When you have a certain amount of debt, okay, and that means others are holding it as debt assets, such as bonds, okay, and you have to sell a lot more. There's a supply-demand issue, okay? Also, when they're holding that, they have to believe in that in terms of the supply-demand. And when you have conflicts, international geopolitical conflicts, even allies do not want to hold each other's debt. They prefer to go to a hard currency. Right. This is logical, and it's factual, and it's repeated throughout history.
So what would Ray Dalio do with his money right now?
Well, I have had, let me answer it this way. If you don't have any views on markets and you say, what should be my strategic asset allocation mix? you would have a diversified portfolio of certain assets that would diversify each other. And then the question is, what would gold play? When you ask me what gold, it would represent between 5 and 15% of a normal portfolio, because it does very well when the other assets don't do well. It's an effective diversifier. So if you had no views of the markets, that's what you would have. And central banks would have a higher percentage than they currently have, okay? So I would start with that view. Now, do I have, then you make tactical tilts from that.
Right.
Okay. Now, in my tactical tilts, I have been clear for quite a while that I would tilt away from bonds and bonds, and I would be tilting toward gold and have a greater than normal amount of that. I'm also believe that we're in a
despite the run up already, meaning you think it's still got.
You always keep, what is my amount that I'm going to keep? Okay. So don't pay so much attention. If I look at the run up and I take what are the positions held by the entities that should hold what positions, they're still short of gold. Okay. So, but still, I'm not saying that it's what amount should I hold. Okay, don't be overly active, and I don't think most people should be overly active, but do they hold the right amount to diversify? And the other part of the answer to the question is that I believe that we are in a wonderful technological revolution in which there's going to be new tech creating great disruptions, and not so much from, there are the hyperscalers and so on, but there's the impact of those on companies that are going to use that and so on. So I want a part of my portfolio to be in those so I'm kind of in a mixture of new tech and diversified with an element of gold. That's where my biases are. Forget my conclusion. Just know what neutral is. What you know. If you are a China, a Japan, Europe, okay, what do you do with your portfolio? What do you have? This is basic.
I hate the idea of buying non-productive assets. Drives me up a wall just thinking about it. So I am zero gold. I'd honestly prefer Ethereum. You know, let's get a little stake going. Who doesn't like a little stake? But obviously it doesn't, even though there might be a limited supply, or at least a supply that we can understand and follow. It's not one that I want to, sorry, not one that I don't want to. It doesn't always act in the same ways as a gold or something like this. I don't think Bitcoin's productive either. And I hold very little Bitcoin. Thoughts on Shop tanking? I think Shop is falling under the names of any of these software names. I'm starting to honestly believe a lot of the companies that, you know, you look at, even a service now, which might be the, you know, one of the more resilient ones, Shopify being one of the more resilient ones, even Shift4, names like this, I think they're just getting their butt kicked just because they're software names, and the trade is that AI is just going to take over all of these names. We'll find out. Tanner, you're a smart guy, but your takes on Bitcoin is so opposite. I don't even know what you mean. I for real don't even know what you mean. I hold Bitcoin. I'm not, but Bitcoin doesn't act like digital gold. That's not, you can look at the price. See, gold is up and Bitcoin's down right now. That's not an opinion. Yeah. Okay. I work in offshore drilling rigs. I don't think the bank man puts his life in danger as I do. Good. So don't believe in what he's saying because he's not taking as much risk as you. Okay. That seems to be it from me, ladies and gentlemen. There were a couple other ones just to keep people up to date. Alex Karp was also at Davos, so check that out. Scott Bessent, Andy Jassy had a couple of words to say. CoreWeave CEO. Meta was also there, how they want to build super intelligence. That was pretty interesting to follow as well. There were a few other things about Google and Anthropic slamming NVIDIA over offering chips to China. Chamath had some comments about how Polymarket will help be a hedge against tax provisions, which I think is pretty interesting. But ladies and gentlemen, should I listen to the Netflix earnings? I probably am going to listen to it myself, so I might as well go live just because I'll just be sitting here listening to it regardless. It's not a name I hold, but maybe it will be. Who knows? Thank you all so much for watching. Really do appreciate your time. But bye for now.